Hi, I'm Harriet Katz, and I'm the Creative Kid College Coach. Today we're going to be talking about how to apply to visual and performing arts college programs. This covers a wide variety of majors, including fine arts, illustration, animation, digital media, product design, fashion, and then of course the performing arts, music, dance, and theater. The most important thing to remember is that when you're applying to these programs, they have specific requirements. You need to understand what these requirements are, and you need to make sure that you're prepared to do a complete application. The more prepared you are, the stronger candidate you'll end up being. As a college applicant, my advice is never ask, what do I need to do to get in? The best question for you to ask is, who has what I want? So how do you determine what it is you are looking for in your undergraduate education? These two questions, where will you go and what are you prepared to do, will start the conversation for you to determine what you want. Let's begin with these questions. Location is important. You need to discuss with your family where you want to go to school. If you want to stay close to home, if it isn't an issue, if it takes you a while to get home for Thanksgiving, understanding if you want to be in a city or in a smaller community is important to start your process of looking for schools. Then you want to know the student to faculty ratio. Having a sense of how large your classes will be, knowing what the ratio of undergraduate to graduate students is. These are factors that will help you understand what it will be like to be a student in this particular school. What are the facilities like? Will you have access to rooms where you can practice your craft, or studio space, or equipment? What are the reputation and retention rates? Now, by this, I don't mean the gossip that everybody spreads about one school or another, and whether it's a party school or what the environment is going to be like. What I want to know is, how many of their freshman students come back for their sophomore year? That's an important data point to know. You need to know the admissions criteria. Are you applying to a program that requires a supplement in the form of an audition or a portfolio? Or are you applying to a program where you will be studying your craft, but admissions is based on your test scores and your grades? You want to understand what the school will do to help promote you. Will they provide internships? Who are their alumni? These are the questions you need to ask because you're building your new village. And finally, are career development services offered to help students become successfully employed? It's important to know that they'll teach you how to interview, how to do your portfolios, or how to write a resume. These are all really important skills. So how do you select a program? For the students that I work with, we start with a big list of schools. We have a variety of sizes, and the mission statements of the schools are different. And how do you go from a big list to one that is more manageable? Well, like I said, first you need to know the requirements. Is a portfolio or an audition required? Do you have to submit a writing sample? You need to consider your artistic needs, the location, the financial situation, and the student's long-term goals when you are selecting any particular program. You also need to compare departments and programs. Again, not schools. One school that might be great in, for instance, engineering, might not be the best place to study graphic design. You also want to know if there are interdisciplinary opportunities. This is becoming more and more common as schools recognize that a design student might also be interested in something like human-computer interaction. You should use social media sites and student blogs, but just read them with some discernment. Make sure you understand that sometimes there's more emotion behind some of these comments than actual truth. Attending a NACAC Performing and Visual Arts College Fair is really helpful, especially if you're a sophomore or a junior. You don't need to bring in any of your work, These fairs are staged across the country, and representatives from a wide variety of schools, both domestic and international, are going to be there. And you can meet them, you can shake their hand, you can engage in a conversation about what they have to offer. And this is the beginning of you showing them your interest in their program. I mentioned determine interest. This is a very important component of your journey to not only find the right school, but show the school why you are a good fit for them. So first of all, admissions directors will come to your high school. You should make a point of attending those presentations and making sure you shake their hand and get their card so you can write them a thank you note for the time that they spent explaining their program to you. You can also email the department and ask them about your program. You can also email faculty. Now, you may not hear back from them, but if you reach out to a faculty member who's teaching a course that you're interested in or has written a book that you've read, when you finally do go visit campus, even if you haven't heard from them, you can find out when they have office hours and you can stop by. And if there's no one in there, you can go in and introduce yourself and say, I've reached out to you because I'm interested in the work that you've done or in the classes that you're teaching. What this allows you to do is when you're writing the essay about why you want to study in their program, you honestly can say that you reached out to a professor. You don't have to say whether you ever made contact with them or heard from them, but you can mention that you made that effort. When you visit the campus, you need to try to get a sense of the culture of the school. Talk to a student that you might encounter on campus. Read the campus newspaper. Oftentimes, programs will allow you to sit in on a class. And finally, some schools, while you're visiting, will allow you to make a personal connection through an interview with an admissions counselor. So let's talk about the actual process of applying. Once you've narrowed down your list of schools to a reasonable number, and you're going to ask, what is a reasonable number? Well, if you're applying for theater programs that only admit 7 to 12 students, you're going to apply to upwards of 20 schools. If you're applying to film programs or visual arts programs, probably around 12 schools is sufficient. But you want to begin the application process as early as possible. That means if you were to tell me a school that you were going to apply to, I would ask you, well, what's their mission? What are they trying to accomplish in their program? And if you couldn't tell me, I'd send you back to do more research. You need to understand what the difference is between early decision, which is a binding decision, early action, which is when you find out early but don't have to commit, and rolling admissions. Some schools offer early decision, and if you know that you really want that program and you have visited the campus, then you might want to consider applying early decision, as it can increase your chances of admission. Early action is another way to show some schools that you are really knowledgeable of them and you're prepared. But when they admit you, you do not have to commit to going there. Some schools, like Stanford and Princeton, have restricted early action. And what that means is you apply to them early action, but you can't apply early decision or early action to any other private school. Then finally, rolling admissions means once you submit your application, you typically get a response from the school in about 6 weeks. You need to research the schools and, as I've said, their mission statement so that you are able to articulate why that school is a good match for you. This is one way to start gathering evidence of fit. You want to begin looking for your mentor, finding a professor, again, who relates to you and who is doing work that interests you. These are all ways to show a school why you would want to apply to their program. Finally, you need to know the deadlines and the eligibility requirements for admissions. The deadlines for many of these programs are different than the ones that are stated on the applications for other majors. You need to know if for your major there is a different deadline. You also need to understand is if you are applying to the school and need to submit that art supplement, either a portfolio or a portfolio of written work, What is the deadline for that portfolio? Sometimes it is the same as the regular admissions deadline, and sometimes it's different. You need to know the eligibility, which means how many years of certain courses like English or science or math are required by this school. Sometimes they just merely suggest this, but there are schools who will say, University of Oregon, for instance, you need to have 3 years at a minimum of high school science just to apply to the school. So understanding the eligibility requirements, and this is different than the eligibility requirements to graduate from high school. This is the eligibility requirements to be considered for admissions. The statement of intent can be interpreted as either the essay that you're going to write for why you want to attend that program, or the essay that you're writing that is considered your artist's statement. In any case, what you will write will be very similar. This is the essay that fills in the blanks of the application. This goes beyond the data, beyond your extracurriculars and your work and the things that you've devoted yourself to. This starts to talk about what your interests are. I suggest that you start a point of view journal. If you go and see work, or you are watching films, or you are reading screenplays, or you are going to see performances, write down details. What did you like? What didn't you like? And start to examine how you are forming those opinions. The schools absolutely look for the student's ability to intelligently talk about their own work, their goals, and their passion for the arts. You need to say whose work inspires you, and it doesn't need to be someone famous. It can be someone who you're following online, but you need to talk about work that inspires you because that will give them the context that they can use to understand your work. You need to be inspired. This goes back to what I said about the point of view journal. Go to exhibits, look at blogs, keep track of work you admire. Go to galleries. Galleries are curated much differently than big museum installations are. Go and see those, and I bet you will find a wide range of work that you either relate to or you don't actually like. Make it personal. Talking about who inspires you and why and relating it to pieces of your own work is really, again, helpful for the schools to gain a context to why you do the work you do. Start your essay drafts, both the main essay that you're going to write as well as these intent essays, the summer before your senior year. Let's talk about your portfolio. In addition to your essays, this is your chance to communicate who you are, to distinguish yourself from other applicants. In general, schools are going to want to see not only assignment-based work, but also personal work. That work that you do on your own when you're working on developing your own concepts. Some institutions will be very specific about work that they want. For instance, 3 to 5 drawings from observation or other kinds of requirements that they want to see. They will also only want to see work that is recent. Work that you've done that is more than 2 years old really should not be in your portfolio. Some schools, such as RISD and Cooper Union and UCLA, require a home test. A home test is an assignment required specifically for the application. Typically, this assignment changes from year to year, so you can't base your work on something that someone has done before you. Again, you need to look at what they are asking of you that particular year. National Portfolio Day events are staged across the country. This is a chance for you to actually get feedback on your work from representatives from a wide variety of programs. You do not have to have a finished portfolio. Bring in work in progress, bring in your sketchbooks, bring in finished work, but try to show them a variety of pieces that represent what it is you're trying to do. Make sure you take really good notes or record their comments because you're going to want to take those into account when you are crafting your portfolio for any particular school. Film applications require a different kind of portfolio. Again, look at exactly what they're asking for. You'll be surprised that many film programs actually don't want to see any filmed material at all. They may ask for a resume that includes projects, credits, and awards for creative work. Often they'll ask for writing samples. This could be your personal essay again, a critical essay on a film, a screenplay, or even a character profile. Some schools will assign a specific film that you need to produce for them. It is my suggestion that you do not use that film for any other school's portfolio, because the schools all know what the other schools are asking for, and they don't want to see those kinds of prompts in their portfolio if they don't ask for it. Other schools will be very specific about your samples need to be limited to 3 minutes or 5 minutes or 10 minutes. You need to know that these limits are very real, and if you submit material that goes beyond those limits, they will not accept your portfolio. Sometimes when you're a film applicant, you are asked to do an interview. You need to be prepared to state your goals, and you need to tell them why their program can help you to reach them. Finally, letters of recommendation are very important for these kinds of creative applicants. You will have letters of rec from your standard academic teachers, but you might also be asked to provide creative letters of rec, and these should be from somebody who understands and has seen what you're able to do as a filmmaker. Now I'm going to talk about the performing arts. So this would include dance, music, theater, and musical theater auditions. You need to know the requirements. Whether you're a jazz applicant or a cellist or a musical theater major, these schools will each have their own requirements as to repertoire, the types of monologues they want to see, whether you have to do a group dance performance. You need to, again, follow their directions very closely. It's important to understand performance opportunities. If the program includes freshmen, upperclassmen, and/or graduate students, what will be your chances to be cast in productions? You also need to know if this is a cut program. What that means is, yes, you audition and are admitted as a freshman, but after typically sophomore year, you have to audition all over again, and not everyone gets to remain in the program at that point. You also need to know, is there a pre-screen? A pre-screen is typically a filmed example of specific work, dances, monologues, songs, and you need to understand what are the requirements. Do you need to apply to the school before submitting the pre-screen? Do you need to submit the pre-screen before you can apply? Other schools may ask you to apply before you can schedule an audition, whether or not they have a pre-screen. These are all specific deadlines and details that you need to understand. Finally, you need to be able to plan how you will audition. Some schools require you to audition on campus. Others will allow you to attend the National Unified Auditions, which are held in Los Angeles, Chicago, and New York. At the Unifieds, you're able to audition for a variety of schools on the same day. So this all has to do with how you choose to logistically plan your auditions. Some schools will accept the arts supplement. You need to understand whether a school will allow you to give evidence of your talent and commitment to music, theater, dance, visual arts, or film. Now, for schools such as Stanford, for instance, if you're going to submit an art supplement, your deadline is earlier, so you need to understand exactly what they require. Some schools, if you submit the art supplement, may expect participation in that art form while you are in college. Others may not. You do not use the art supplement if you are applying for a program that does require an audition or portfolio. How you spend your summer prior to senior year is critical to how you prepare to be an applicant in the visual or performing arts. This is your chance to make an effort to build your portfolio or practice auditioning. I highly recommend summer pre-college programs where you can be immersed in your art form, even if you don't intend to apply to a program that will require you to study only the arts. A pre-college program will give you a chance to feel what it would be like to study the arts on a college campus. Here are some examples of pre-college programs that I recommend. The UCLA Design Media Arts Summer Institute, the Maryland Institute College of Art in Baltimore, the School of the Art Institute in Chicago, Cornell, and finally, the College of Creative Arts in Oakland, California. There are very many other summer pre-college programs out there. This is just a place to start. For my theater and musical theater applicants, it's important to look for opportunities to build audition skills. Programs such as ArtsBridge, the Boston University Summer Institute, the Performing Arts Project, and even the National High School Institute at Northwestern, also known as Cherubs, are a variety of programs that you could look at. Finally, if you're interested in writing and/or production skills in filmmaking, you should look at NYU, USC, UCLA, Stanford, Loyola Marymount, Emerson, or Boston University to build writing or production skills. Just know that for NYU in particular, their summer application deadline is much earlier. It's in early January. All the other ones are later in the winter or spring, but if you plan to apply to NYU, you should do so before Christmas. I think it's very important as a creative person to show schools that you're willing to use your creativity to give back to your community. Here are a few suggestions. If you're a theater major, you can look for a local drama group that could use your help. If you're a dance major, you could volunteer to choreograph for younger dancers, like at a middle school, or go to a senior citizen home and teach them how to dance, even if they're in wheelchairs. Art majors, you can look for programs that need volunteers with your skills. I've had some of my art students go to homeless shelters and volunteer to teach art classes to kids who are living there. I've also had film majors go to homeless shelters and work with residents of the shelters to produce their own film. If you're an art and technology major, you can look for organizations that will use your skills. I particularly like volunteermatch.org because you can put in your location and your age, and opportunities will come up that you can do in your community. And also DoSomething.org is another good resource. I'm often asked by nervous parents, what will my student do when they graduate with a degree in the arts? That's when I remind them that their child will be trained not for the job they want, but for the job they don't know about yet. Here are some examples. There's a documentary film student who is now working in special education. There's a student who got a BA in design who is now working as a user experience designer. There's someone working in the Office of Digital Strategy as the Director of Online Engagement. There's the Master's in Fine Arts and Design who is now a Director of Media Production. And finally, there's the designer working at a digital agency that didn't exist 2 years ago. The fact of the matter is that when you graduate from college, you come away with 4 key competencies that any hiring manager is looking for. First of all, you have fearlessness. You can't go through a program in the arts without understanding the importance of being criticized and also giving thoughtful criticism to the other students that you're studying with. You learn how to communicate because that's the only way that you'll be able to solve problems together. You learn how to use analytic skills to look at a problem and then collaborate to think of a solution. And finally, teamwork. This is where you understand that it's not about you and your ideas alone, that you have the humility to say, I don't know, show me. So at the end of this presentation, the one thing I want you to remember is, please never ask, what do I need to do to get in? Only ask, who has what I need?